All right, this is my review of Season 3 of the Netflix adaptation of the video game Castlevania. So, after Season 2 of Castlevania ended, the final episode sets up for a third season. However, I was kind of left clueless of what they would do because Dracula was dead at the end of Season 2. Spoilers, by the way. This is spoilers. I did not say that, but this is definitely spoilers. Dracula is dead at the end of Season 2. Where do you go from there? Where do you go from Dracula being dead? I mean, for all intents and purposes, that's the original story of Castlevania 3. It's been concluded. Well, where do you go from here? And it turns out that, it kind of does its own thing at this point, and I'm okay with that. So, Season 3 of Castlevania is quite different from the first two because it's no longer directly pulling from the source material and kind of just doing its own thing, and I'm okay with that. So, Season 3 of Castlevania follows, of course, the three main leads from Season 2, Trevor, Sypha, and Alucard, who, at the end of Season 2, Alucard stays behind at his father's castle. And we sort of see, how his mind is being affected from that and all that. And Trevor and Sypha are going around adventuring, and they become stuck in this town of Lindenfeld. And we also, this season also shows us Hector, being, captured by Carmilla, and also Isaac now on a quest to attack Carmilla's castle, as he now knows where she is located. So it's a very interesting season, for sure, because we're following, of course, our characters all split several ways after the death of Dracula. And now we're sort of seeing, them setting up a new story here. Now, this season does have a narrative. However, I feel like the big purpose of the season is to set up what's to come. Because, this season, while it has a conclusion for some things, not everything has a big conclusion. And this season's just very interesting and very well done, I might add. This is personally my favorite season of the show because this was a season willing to take big risks, not just for the story, but for the characters as well. Because, Trevor and Sypha, they were like the big main characters in the last season, and they kind of take the backseat here, although they do have an interesting sort of storyline with the Priory and all that, which I'll get into that later. Oddly enough, the most exciting character this season was Isaac. Seeing Isaac going from town to town, creating his own army of night creatures to fight alongside him, was just really exciting. And also just Isaac's interactions with the sailor and talking about Isaac's view of humanity, which, again, Isaac's views on humanity doesn't really change, but it's still an interesting conversation nonetheless. And just Isaac has some of the best action scenes in this whole season. Isaac, for all intents and purposes, was the MVP of the season. No doubt about it. Isaac just claimed this season. He was incredible this season. Talking about Alucard now. Alucard has one of the most interesting stories this season because his storyline isn't necessarily tied in with everything else. And, you sort of start to understand what's going on in the storyline, and it kind of switches and turns on you. There's a big moment where, it's revealed that the two kids that Alucard was training, Sumi and Taka, they were actually, trying to take over the castle. For themselves. They were trying to get the castle to get moving again. They weren't actually, there for Alucard. Well, I think originally they probably wanted Alucard to help them. And then as they got more impatient, they decided to, try to kill him. Which before that, they do try to rape him. And yes, I must say that this season is definitely the most not safe for work season of this show. There's of course, like the previous 2 seasons, massive amounts of gore. But on top of that, lots of crude language, lots of nudity, lots of sex, just every single kind of profanity you could think of. It's just all over the place. And, if you're someone who's uncomfortable about that stuff, maybe don't watch Castlevania Season 3. Especially if you haven't seen the first 2 seasons. Why would you watch it anyway? But no, they do some interesting things here with Alucard, especially near the end, because they sort of tease that he might be turning evil. And I kind of had an epiphany where I sort of realized that this whole season for Alucard, his whole character arc, was him becoming his father. Because when you think about it, Alucard, like Dracula, was okay with humanity and was a great, he was a good person. But as Alucard started to go insane, of course he did kill his father, and the rape was like something extra on top of that just pretty much was the equivalent to Dracula's wife being burned and him going crazy. I think that's what's going to cause Alucard to become evil and go down the same path of his father. And I know that that's different from the video games, but I think it would make a very interesting storyline for Season 4 and onward. Trevor and Sypha as well, they sort of have their own sort of... I'm just going to talk about each of the storylines because the storylines are all kind of separate, and they don't really converge, but they're all sort of separate storylines here. And yeah, can I just say, though, that the animation this season was, like, the best out of any of the seasons? Like, my God. Seasons 1 and 2 looked incredible. But Season 3, the budget went up super high. I mean, not only is the animation way more fluid, but also everything is just a lot more detailed. And there's also more of a use of CGI, but I'm going to be honest, I actually love the use of CGI here. The CGI did not bother me one bit. And it actually helped with a lot of the fluidity of the movements, I think. It was just so nice. Like, every single shot in this season looked beautiful. Like, the environments were just incredible. Like, whenever you had, like, a landscape shot or a shot of, like, a flower or something, it just looked beautiful. Like, they really worked their ass off with making the season just look as amazing as possible. Like, it looks absolutely stunning. And, I actually cannot say, like, oh, yeah, thanks to this person, because I genuinely don't know the names of the animators, but regardless, they did a great job. Anyways, Trevor and Sypha, their quest was actually one of the more interesting because they run into a few new faces, one of them being Count Saint Germain, which is my favorite new character in this season. Count Saint Germain is amazing. He's got an interesting backstory. He has this connection to this new concept introduced in the season called the Infinite Corridor, which I will talk about that later. But wow, just wow. The implications with the Infinite Corridor are quite interesting because it sort of shows down the line potential for multiple worlds to exist. And like they show a few of them, but yeah, that's besides the point though. And they sort of they sort of investigate the priory in this town of Lindenfeld and sort of like what they might be up to. A creature landed, in that priory, a month or so ago, and there was a big flashing light in there. And ever since, everyone's just gone crazy worshiping Dracula in hell. And yeah, and of course, as you expect, they tried to resurrect Dracula, something that, of course, many fans of the Castlevania games will recognize is, of course, the many resurrections of Dracula. However, I was expecting it to be successful, and they are not successful. So, about the Infinite Corridor. Interesting concept here. Interesting concept that they introduced with the Infinite Corridor. Because it's a portal to multiple different worlds. And we actually see in one of Saint Germain's dreams that he actually once, traveled through this infinite corridor, and we see all these different worlds. There's one with this giant robot walking through this, like, orange-looking terrain. There's one, with this Aztec-looking temple. There's just all of these different worlds that look so fascinating. And, like, I wonder if that's something, if that's, like, I don't know, like, maybe shows that the same studio are working on in the future. I have no clue. But I wonder if that's actually going to be a sign for things to come for the future of the show. Maybe they can actually show some of these worlds off. Like, that would be super... It would be super out of place, but it would also be kind of fascinating. I'm not going to lie. Whenever something opens up for there to be, like, a plethora of different worlds to explore, that always engages my curiosity. Because I'm like, all right, you got me hooked. Like, with that potential, you seriously got me hooked. And the one storyline I haven't mentioned yet is Hector's. And, yeah... people who were hoping that Hector would do better this season, Hector's still treated like shit, even till the end of this season. And he develops a relationship with the vampire known as Lenore. I guess I should say now that he's in the kingdom of Styria, which is ruled by 3 vampires, Carmilla, Lenore, Striga, and Morana? I think her name is Morana. Anyways, and also, Striga and Morana are a couple, which is awesome. Oh, yeah, all these are women, by the way. So, yeah, it is a lesbian relationship in this show, and it's done pretty well. Do I wish they had more screen time? Yeah, but, it's there, and it's done well. And, if that's going to get you to not to watch anymore, then you might as well unsubscribe from my channel. But, it's like, if that turns you off, then, like, I'm sorry. Just, don't have anything to do with me. Like, that's just a really dumb reason not to watch it. I'm sorry, but grow the fuck up. Seriously, grow the fuck up. Anyways, Lenore sort of, uses her attractiveness, I guess. Well, she kind of uses her niceness against Hector. She sort of baits him in, and I think that makes her more dangerous than any of them because she's so nice and trustworthy, or at least seemingly. Like, she sort of reels you in and then attacks, and that's what we see where she puts the ring on Hector, and now Hector is a permanent slave of her, and now literally has to do everything she wants him to because he is literally under her control. And yeah, I think that just makes her the most dangerous out of all of them because she lures in her prey and, and she makes it seem nice and warm and comforting and just attacks. That's like the most dangerous, kind of vampire you could have. I mean, wow. Just looking back on this season, though, I mean, the action was fantastic in this season. And as much as I really like Season 2, the action in Season 3, just overall, there's a huge increase in the budget. You can tell there's a massive increase in the budget. They really, really wanted to make this season something special and the start of a new era of Castlevania. Because while the first 2 seasons covered the story of Castlevania 3, this season tries to steer it in a new direction. And while many might hate some of the things it does, I personally love that this season tries to be bold and daring with the source material. So, yeah, that's my overall thoughts on Castlevania Season 3. Be sure to go watch it if you have not. Fucking incredible. I mean, the guys working on the show are fantastic. I'm really hoping it gets renewed for Season 4. Because this show keeps blowing me away with each season. I mean, I thought that Season 2 was going to be, like, the best season of the show after watching it. And after seeing Season 3, I'm like, nope. Season 3, baby.